My family stole $133,000 for a luxury Europe vacation, but when I got them arrested at the airport and the credit card reversed every charge, they lost everything and their house. I'm 29 years old, I work in finance, and honestly, I need to tell this story because what my family did to me a few months ago still has me processing a ton of emotions. Basically, my parents and my sister stole $133,000 from me, and when I say stole, I'm not exaggerating or using the word lightly. They literally used my credit card without my permission to fund ridiculously extravagant European vacation. But let me back up a bit so you understand the full context, because this story doesn't start with the theft, it starts way before with the shitty dynamic my family has always had. I grew up being the responsible son, you know, the one who got good grades, the one who got scholarships for college, the one who worked part-time throughout his entire degree so he wouldn't have to ask his parents for money. My younger sister Chloe, on the other hand, was always the spoiled one, the family princess who never had to work for anything. She's 23 now, recently graduated from college, and her entire life. My parents have given her absolutely everything she's wanted, without her lifting a finger. I paid for my own college, she had everything paid for by my parents, plus a generous allowance. I bought my first used car with my own money at 19. She got a brand new BMW when she turned 16. You get what I'm saying? It's always been like this. And I guess I got used to it because I thought, well, she's the youngest. It's normal for them to spoil her a bit more, right? But looking back, I should have seen the signs of how toxic this dynamic really was. My mom is one of those people who thinks she's always right, like literally never admits when she's wrong, and she has this special ability to manipulate any situation to make it seem like you're the problem. My dad is calmer, tries to be the voice of reason sometimes, but in the end, he always ends up giving in to whatever my mom and Chloe want. For years, I maintained the relationship with them because, I don't know, I guess I thought, that's how families worked, with their flaws and all. I'd visit my parents a couple times a month, go to family dinners, call them regularly. It was cordial, functional, or at least that's what I thought. The thing is, I've been super careful with my money since forever. I work in finance, so I understand better than most people the importance of maintaining good credit, of having savings, of not spending more than you earn. I have a decent apartment that I pay for myself, a healthy emergency fund, I contribute to my 401k, all that adulting stuff. And part of that includes having a credit card with a pretty high limit. Not because I use it to spend on crazy things, but because it gives me flexibility and improves my credit score when I use it responsibly and pay it off completely every month. That detail is going to be important later, trust me. So, in May of this year, Chloe graduated from college. She studied something like communications or public relations. Honestly, I'm not sure, because she changed majors like 3 times during those 4 years. It's not like I was obligated to do it, but I thought it would be useful for when she started looking for work, and I also wanted to show that even though my parents clearly preferred her, I didn't have resentment toward her. I mean, it wasn't Chloe's fault that my parents were like that, right? That's what I told myself at that time. I gave her the gift at the graduation party my parents threw at their house. It was a big event, like a backyard barbecue with about 50 guests. Catering, elaborate decorations, the whole thing. Obviously, I didn't have a party like that when I graduated, but whatever, I was already used to it. Chloe opened the gift in front of everyone and acted super excited, hugged me and said, I was the best brother in the world. All that stuff, it made me feel good, honestly. After the party, she asked me if she could use my credit card to buy some accessories for the laptop, like a case and a wireless mouse, things that cost about $100 total. I said yes. I gave her my card, and she said she'd return it to me the next day. This was on a Saturday, around 3 in the afternoon. I remember the moment exactly because I was eating a piece of cake when she asked me. Fast forward 1 week later. It's Friday night. I'm at my apartment watching Netflix after an exhausting work week, and I get a call from my mom. I answer, and she sounds super animated, like abnormally happy, and says something like, Ryan, honey, I have exciting news. I'm there thinking, what could it be? Is some relative pregnant? Are my parents moving? I had no idea what was coming. My mom tells me, "You know your sister worked so hard during college and deserves to celebrate her graduation properly. So your dad and I decided she deserves a special trip to Europe." I say, "Oh, that's nice." And she continues, "It's going to be a month-long trip visiting 8 countries. We already reserved everything: business class flights, 4- and 5-star hotels, guided tours, exclusive restaurants, the whole experience." And at that moment, I'm thinking, wow, that must cost a fortune. But well, if my parents want to spend their money like that, it's their decision. But then she says the part that left me completely frozen. "And the best part of all is that we used your credit card to reserve everything, so you accumulate a ton of reward points. Isn't that great?" I literally went blank for a few seconds. I said, "Wait, what? You used my credit card? Without asking me?" And my mom, with that super casual tone like it was no big deal, says, "Yes, Chloe still had your card from last week, and I took advantage to make the reservations. We already planned out the perfect itinerary. We spent about $133,000. But don't worry because you have a good job and you can pay it. Plus, your sister deserves it so much." She literally said that. She told me like she was doing me a favor, like I should be grateful that they used my money to send my sister on luxury vacation for a month. I exploded, obviously. I told her mom, "That's completely unacceptable. You can't use my credit card without my permission. That's illegal. That's literally theft." And she immediately changed her tone, got all defensive, and said, "Oh, Ryan, don't be dramatic. We're family. Plus, we thought you'd be happy to contribute to your sister's future. She's starting her adult life, and she needs these experiences." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Like, in what universe is using someone's credit card without permission to spend $133,000 a normal thing? I told her to cancel everything immediately, that this wasn't going to happen, and she said it was too late because many of the reservations were non-refundable, and besides, Chloe had already invited 2 of her friends and everyone was super excited. Wait, Chloe had invited friends? So it wasn't just her. There were 3 more people going, plus my parents. 5 people total on a trip through Europe for a month in luxury hotels. This kept getting worse. I asked my mom if my dad knew about this, and she said, of course, it was both of their idea. I hung up the phone because I felt like I was going to say things I'd regret, and the first thing I did was open my bank app to check my account. And there it all was. Charge after charge after charge. United Airlines. $28,450 for 5 business class tickets to Europe with multiple connections. The Ritz-Carlton Paris. $15,200 for a suite for 5 nights. Hotel Hassler Rome. $12,800 for 4 nights. And it kept going and going. Hotels in Amsterdam, Barcelona, Dubrovnik, Santorini, private Vatican tours, VP museum entries, Michelin-starred restaurants, a wine tour in Tuscany, a private cruise through the Greek islands. Everything reserved. Everything. Charged to my card. Everything without me having the slightest idea. The total was exactly $133,247.63. I sat on my couch staring at my phone screen, feeling like I'd been kicked in the stomach. My hands were shaking. I literally felt like I was going to throw up. It wasn't just the money, although obviously $133,000 is an insane amount of money. It was the betrayal, the violation of trust, the fact that my own family thought this was okay. I called Chloe immediately. She answered all happy and said, "Hey bro, did mom tell you about the trip? Isn't it amazing?" And I, trying to stay calm, told her, "Chloe, I need you to return my credit card to me right now." She said, "Oh yeah, sorry. I completely forgot to return it. Can I drop it off next week?" And I said, "No, I need it today. Now. This moment." She sighed, like I was the inconvenience, and said, "Okay, relax. I'll stop by tomorrow." The next day, Saturday morning, I went to my parents' house. Chloe was there with my mom. Both of them were sitting in the kitchen looking at travel brochures and laughing, like super excited. When I walked in, my mom looked at me and said, "Oh, Ryan, I'm glad you came. We need to talk about some trip details." I told her no. What we needed to talk about was how they were going to cancel absolutely everything and how they were going to return my money. My mom made that face she makes when she's about to give me a lecture and said, "Look, I know you're surprised, but this is what families do. They support each other, and frankly, I'm disappointed in your selfish reaction." Selfish? I was the selfish one? I laughed, like a bitter laugh with no humor, and said, "Mom, you literally stole $133,000 from me, and I'm the selfish one?" Chloe jumped in and said, "Ryan, don't be so dramatic. Plus, you make good money, you can pay it without problem, and I need this for my personal development before I start working." I asked her when she was planning to start looking for work, and she said after the trip, obviously, because she needed time to process graduation and recharge her energy. My dad arrived at that moment, and I tried to reason with him. I said, "Dad, this is wrong. You can't use my card without permission. It's illegal." He scratched his head, clearly uncomfortable, and said, "Well, son, I know maybe we should have asked you first, but it's already done, and canceling now would make us lose a lot of money in penalties." I told him that wasn't my problem, that I hadn't authorized any of those charges. My mom interrupted and said, "Ryan, enough. The trip is planned. We leave in 2 weeks, and you're going to have to accept it because we're not canceling anything, period." I left that house feeling worse than I'd felt in years. During the next few days, I tried calling the bank and the credit card company to report the charges as fraud, but they told me that since the person who made the charges had physical possession of my card and could presumably know my information, it didn't qualify as fraud in the legal sense, that this was a civil matter between me and the person who used the card. They suggested I file a police report and sue my family civilly. I was devastated, because basically, they told me I was stuck with those charges unless I took legal action against my own parents and sister. 2 weeks later, my family left on their trip. Chloe posted on Instagram from the airport a photo of her and her 2 friends with designer luggage, with a caption that said something like, "Month-long European adventure, here we come. So blessed and grateful." The comments were full of people saying, "How lucky. I want your life. You're living the dream." Nobody knew that all of that was being financed with money stolen from my credit card. During the first week of the trip, Chloe kept posting photos constantly. Photos at the Eiffel Tower, photos eating croissants at fancy Parisian cafes, photos with expensive wines at restaurants with white tablecloths. And then she posted something that made me completely explode. An artistic photo of her luggage with my credit card attached as an identification tag on her suitcase, with a caption that said, "Shout out to my amazing credit card for making this trip possible," with a heart emoji. The idiot literally posted public evidence that she was using my card without any remorse whatsoever, like it was something funny or cool. It was at that moment that I decided I wasn't going to be the passive victim of this situation anymore. If they were going to treat me like this, I was going to defend myself. I spent a whole day making calls. I called United Airlines and explained the situation to them, that my card had been used without authorization and that I needed to cancel all tickets associated with those reservations. They transferred me to several departments, but eventually I got them to flag the account as possible fraud. I did the same with every hotel, every tour, every restaurant with a reservation that I could identify on my statements. Then I called my credit card company and told them I wanted to freeze my account completely, that no additional charges should be authorized for any reason. The representative asked me if I was sure, because that meant the card would be unusable until I reactivated it, and I said, "Yes, I'm absolutely sure. Freeze it now." And they did. Within hours, my credit card that my family thought they were going to use freely during their entire month in Europe became completely inactive. The next few days were, I'm not going to lie, incredibly satisfying. I started receiving furious messages from my mom. "The hotel in Rome won't check us in because your card was declined. Resolve this immediately." "The tour we had reserved today was canceled. They're telling us you reported fraud. What's wrong with you?" Chloe sent me like 20 messages in a row, a mix of pleas and accusations. "Ryan, please reactivate the card. You're ruining our trip. Why are you being so cruel?" As if I were the villain of the story. I ignored all the messages. I blocked their numbers temporarily because I didn't want to deal with the drama. Through a cousin who still talked to me, I found out what was happening over there. Apparently, after the hotel in Rome rejected the card, they had to look for last-minute accommodations and ended up in a backpacker hostel sharing rooms with strangers. The private tours were canceled. Several restaurants where they had reservations denied them service when they tried to pay with my frozen card. They had to start paying for everything out of pocket, and since obviously they hadn't planned for that, their budget ran out super fast. But the best part, literally the cherry on top, was when they tried to use my card for their return flight. I had contacted the airline weeks before and explained the entire situation to them, sent them documentation, the whole thing. They put a note in the system. When my family arrived at the airport in Barcelona to take their fast, scheduled return flight, they were detained at the counter. The airline informed them that those tickets had been flagged as potentially fraudulent and that they couldn't board without purchasing new tickets. My mom tried to make a scene, demanded to speak with managers, all her usual intimidation tactics, but it didn't work. They had to buy 5 new return tickets, in economy this time because it was all they could afford, and it cost them like $8,000 that they had to split between them. The flight wasn't until 3 days later, so they had to stay at a budget hotel near the airport, spending more money they hadn't planned to spend. During those 3 days, my mom sent me emails, because I had blocked her number, saying horrible things, that I was a terrible son, that I was destroying the family, that Chloe was traumatized because of me. But I continued with my plan. When I knew they were already back on their way home, I did something that was probably extreme, but that I felt totally justified. I went to the police station and filed a formal financial fraud report. I showed them all the statements, explained that my card had been taken without permission and used to make massive charges without my authorization, gave them screenshots of my mom's messages admitting they had used my card. The officer who attended to me listened to everything and said there were definitely elements to investigate this as fraud. 3 days after filing the report, when my family landed at the airport back home, they were intercepted by police officers. They didn't arrest them or anything that dramatic, but they took them to a separate room to question them about the financial fraud charges I had filed. My cousin, the same one who had kept me informed, told me later that my mom was hysterical, screaming that this was ridiculous, that you can't accuse your own family of fraud, that I was exaggerating everything out of revenge. The matter with the police resolved relatively quickly, because since they were my family and technically had had access to my card, it wasn't a clear criminal case. But the report remained on file, and that gave me more weight when I contacted my credit card company again. I explained that I had filed charges with the police, that my family had admitted to using my card without permission, and that I needed them to do a formal fraud investigation. While that was being processed, my family came to my apartment. It was about a week after they got back. They rang the doorbell on a Sunday morning. It was my mom, my dad, and Chloe. I let them in because, I don't know, I guess part of me wanted to give them a chance to apologize or at least admit that what they did was wrong. I sat on my couch, and the 3 of them stood in front of me. My mom started. She was furious. The veins in her neck were bulging. She said, "You need to call the police right now and withdraw that ridiculous complaint. You humiliated us in front of everyone at the airport. Chloe is still processing the trauma of being interrogated by officers like she was a criminal." I told her mom, "You literally committed a crime. You used my card without permission to spend $133,000. What did you expect me to do?" And she said, "We expected you to act like part of this family, to understand that sometimes we make sacrifices for the people we love." Chloe was crying, those crocodile tears she always used to manipulate my parents. She said, "Ryan, you ruined my trip. The whole time we were stressed about money, we had to stay in horrible places. We couldn't do half the things we had planned. How could you do that to me?" And I, staying calm, even though inside I was boiling, said, "Chloe, I didn't do anything to you. You and Mom robbed me. I just protected my money and my credit." She screamed that I was a horrible and selfish brother. My dad, who had been quiet, finally spoke. He said, "Son, I know you're angry, and you have a right to be, but this has gone too far, don't you? I think it's enough. Let's put all this behind us and move forward as a family." I asked him, "Are you going to return the $133,000 to me?" He went quiet, looked at my mom. My mom said indignantly, "Return it to you? Ryan, that money was already spent. There's nothing to return. Plus, we raised you, gave you shelter and food for 18 years. Don't you think we're owed something for that? That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I stood up and told them they had to leave my apartment immediately. My mom said they weren't leaving until I promised to withdraw the police complaint. I told her that if they didn't leave in the next 30 seconds, I was going to call the police again and report them for trespassing. My dad put his hand on my mom's shoulder and told her it was better if they left. All three went out, and my mom yelled from the hallway that I was going to regret this, that I was destroying this family over money, that someday I was going to need them, and they weren't going to be there. The following weeks were a weird mix of liberation and sadness. On one hand, I felt incredibly proud of having established boundaries and having defended myself. On the other hand, I was processing the fact that my family really was that toxic and that we were probably never going to have a normal relationship. I blocked my parents and Chloe on all platforms. Some extended family members tried to contact me to tell me I was overreacting, that I should forgive and forget, but I maintained my position. The credit card company finally completed their investigation about 2 months after all this drama. They called me to inform me that they had decided in my favor, that the charges definitely qualified as unauthorized use since I had presented clear evidence that I had never given permission for those transactions and that I had tried to stop them immediately after finding out. They reversed all the charges. The $133,247.63 was completely removed from my account. I didn't have to pay a single cent. That meant that technically, the airline companies, hotels, and such were going to go after my family to recover those costs because they had received the services, but now the payments were being reversed. I don't know exactly how all that was resolved on their end. Honestly, I don't care. It's not my problem. Now, several months later, I'm still not in contact with any of them. My mom tried to send me a Christmas card last month, and I threw it away without opening it. Chloe created a new Instagram account to try to follow me. I blocked it immediately. My dad sent me an email a few weeks ago saying that my mom has been depressed and that I should consider that family is the most important thing. Yes, I guess I do. Not because I think I did anything wrong, but because it's sad to accept that your family really doesn't value you as a person. But I also feel free, like really free for the first time in a long time. I don't have to deal with their drama. I don't have to pretend their behavior is normal. I don't have to be the responsible son who endures everything while Chloe lives in her privilege bubble. I've been going to therapy, which has helped quite a bit. My therapist told me something that really resonated with me, that establishing boundaries doesn't make you selfish, it makes you healthy. That real family doesn't rob you, doesn't manipulate you, doesn't treat you like an ATM with legs. And she's right. The last update I had about them was about a month ago, when my cousin told me that my parents are having serious financial problems. Apparently, they had to sell their house and move to a smaller place because debts piled up on them. Part of me wonders if it's because of the consequences of that disastrous European trip, if the airlines and hotels sued them or something like that. But honestly, I don't care enough to find out. I'm focused on my life now. My credit is perfect. My finances are in order. And for the first time in years, I don't feel that constant pressure of having to meet impossible expectations or be the good son who endures everything. And that, honestly, is priceless.